Way too many people fall for this, spend way too much money here, and even get charged gratuity when you aren't even served by a real person. Hi there, I'm Tanner from Cruzely.com, and I have a little confession to make. I'm one of those people that cannot stand feeling like I got a bad deal, even if I'm on vacation and I'm supposed to relax. It's not about the money really, it's about the idea that someone got one over on me or that I didn't get the best deal that I could have. That's why I put together some of the gouges that I've learned over a decade of cruising to help you be a smarter passenger. Before I get too far, I do want to let you know that this channel is quickly closing in on 100,000 subscribers thanks to cruisers just like you. So if you find this video interesting and helpful, I hope that you'll join up and help me meet that 100,000 goal. That said, let's talk about the first spot that I think people are paying way too much. Now I've toured and stayed in suites, and I can tell you, I get it. They are top notch. If you're taking a week-long cruise and you can't afford it, then by all means, book the suite. What seems to be a bad deal to me, however, is people booking these rooms on short cruises of 3 or 4 days and paying 3 or 4 times the fare for a room that they will barely use. Take a cruise I found on Royal Caribbean. 4 days aboard Utopia of the Seas from Port Canaveral with stops in Nassau and Coco Cay. A summer sail date starts at around $850 per person for an interior cabin. When a balcony, that's $950. But the suite is nearly $1,800 per person, or more than $900 more per person over the interior cabin price. But here's the deal, I know firsthand that on a cruise like this, you spend so little time in the room. With 2 ports of call and a massive ship, you are always going to be out doing something. The room on a cruise like this is really just a place to sleep and not much more for most people. Again, if you want it, then buy it, but on short cruises, the high-end rooms seem like a big waste of money unless they are only priced a little bit higher. I visited Ensenada, Mexico for the first time a little more than a year ago, and honestly, I had one of my most memorable days ever. Without realizing it, I had visited during Carnival and got caught up in a parade. And yes, I even got to see the Gene Simmons Kiss float. Fast forward a year later and things were very, very different, and frankly, I felt ripped off. Looking through what was available for excursions, one place seemed to keep popping up, La Bufadora. La Bufadora, excuse my accent, it's a natural crevice in the rocks on the Pacific coast. It's formed in such a way that when a wave pushes in, the pressure shoots water in a mist up into the sky. So I spent $45 to go check it out on a last-minute tour. I didn't read any reviews or even talk to the excursion staff. I just booked it through the phone app a day or two before. That morning, we all loaded up on the bus and headed out 45 minutes around the bay. Then, as the bus parks, I start to realize what is going on. From the parking lot to the viewpoint, it's about a quarter-mile walk. And that walk is lined every inch with vendors. This was the definition of a tourist trap. The actual geyser itself, it's pretty cool, but I'll be honest, it's something that unless it's really, really rocking, you see it for a couple of minutes and then you're done. And after you look, it's back for the quarter-mile hike through the gauntlet again. Once I got back, I checked out the reviews online for this excursion, and my experience was far from unique. Bottom line, most short excursions are tons of fun. I've loved literally everyone that I've been on until this. But doing a quick check of what others think, which I did not, it can save you from getting gouged. Now, how can you rip yourself off on a cruise? What about not taking advantage when the cruise line actually helps you to save money? Just about every cruise line these days, they allow you to bring on a bottle of wine or champagne when you board. Most also let you bring on a 12-pack of non-alcoholic drinks like sodas or juices. Now, that may not seem like much, but given the prices of drinks on a cruise, it can save you a ton of money. Take that 12-pack of Coke. On the ship, they might serve Pepsi products like Carnival does. Even if they do sell Coke, a can will run about $3 plus gratuity. So a case that might cost you $6 or $7 in a store saves you nearly $40 on the ship. Wine prices, they can vary widely on board, but expect to spend $8 to $12 for a glass. A $10 bottle of wine from the grocery store saves you several times that over the course of the cruise. For a long time, one of the classic scams in a foreign country would be getting charged insane prices by a taxi. You'd hop in for a ride just a few miles down the road, then a shady driver tells you that the fare is just some ridiculous amount. To put tourist minds at ease though, many ports, they've standardized fares and they post these taxi rates right by the taxi stand. You know exactly what you're going to pay. Unfortunately, that doesn't mean that it's a good deal. I remember paying $12 for a taxi ride from the port to visit Shankanab in Cozumel. I hop in and literally 3 or 4 minutes later, I'm already there. Round trip, it adds up to close to 25 bucks for about 5 miles in total. That's nothing compared to the rates posted in Amber Cove in the Dominican Republic. There, rates were $70 round trip to get from the port to the city and back. To me, you're still getting gouged with these set prices. Now it's just all out in the open. So when I cruise, I'm actually jealous of those folks that can completely disconnect. Since I make a living writing and talking about cruises, when I sail, I'm actually working, so I have to get the ship's internet. And I will be the first to admit, I don't know the technology or the cost that it takes to provide thousands of people on the ship with internet connectivity, but can it really be this expensive? Paying upwards of $20 or $25 per day, it's common. I just dropped nearly 90 bucks for 4 days of access on my last cruise. In other words, I spent more on the internet for a few days aboard a ship than I do for an entire month at home. Meanwhile, what you get is impressive for being out in the middle of the ocean, but it's far slower than what we're all used to on land. If you can avoid it, save your money. If not, welcome to the club of having to pay up. So I just covered the cost of internet on the ship, but there is an area that I find to be even more of a gouge. Many cruise lines offer multiple tiers of service. There's a slower tier of service that may be more limited in that it doesn't have fast speeds or allow streaming, yet it still costs a wild amount of money. For instance, Carnival charges $19.55 for its value plan and $21.25 for its premium plan each day. But for the extra roughly $2, you get speeds up to 3 times faster and the ability to stream. Cruise internet has gotten better as most have switched over to Starlink service, but it still is not blazing. What I found is that whenever I opt for the lower tier plans, they can be unusably slow. So even though I think the prices are wild, I'd still suggest that you pony up the extra money and go top tier. It may be more expensive, but it is a far better deal. The last time I cruised solo, I did something that I've always considered to be a gouge, and that was to take the cruise line's transportation between the ship and the airport. Cruise lines all offer shuttles to get you to the ship and back from the airport. The issue is they only run on the day that your cruise begins and ends, you're on their schedule, and these rides are expensive. For example, a ride for one person costs about 25 bucks from the Miami airport to the cruise port. You can get an Uber or Lyft, which carries up to 4 people, although 3 is more likely given the amount of luggage, for the same amount of money. So why did I take it? I found that in most cases, the price for the shuttle for one person is roughly the same cost as an Uber. So if you sail solo like I did, there's no real difference in the overall cost. And if it's already headed to the airport, why not catch a ride? But if you are traveling with 2 or more people, as most of us are, other ways of getting to the port are way cheaper. I've taken literally dozens of cruises, but the number I've taken in the months of summer or the holidays, those can be counted on a single hand. That's because you'll pay a ridiculous amount more during these times, and I find the fares to be majorly overpriced. Thanks to flexibility, I don't have to pay those fares if I don't want to. Not everyone is that fortunate though, and if not, then just know that you're going to be hit with a much more expensive cruise. Take this 7-day Carnival cruise departing in January of 2025. The cheapest price, it's about $600 per person for an interior cabin. Of course, you have to pay double occupancy and taxes and fees, but that's still a pretty good price. The same exact cruise, same room type, same everything during the window between Christmas and New Year's, it's around $1,300 per person. Summer trips come in starting at around $1,000 per person. Now, I'm not picking on Carnival. You see this across cruise lines. Now, is this a gouge? It's likely more market pricing than anything, but it's still wild how much more that you'll pay. This is one that's not going to cost you that much money overall, but it makes zero sense to me, and it seems like a cash grab in my eyes. Tipping culture drives many people nuts, and you're seeing more and more people talk about it. But some spots on the cruise ship have you tipping for service you provide yourself or through a machine. If you head to a bar and you order a drink from a bartender, everyone knows that gratuity is automatically added on. That $12 cocktail becomes something like $14 and change when it's all said and done. But what if you buy a drink from the minibar, or you get it from a self-serve station, or even buy a beverage from a robot on the ship that makes drinks? You guessed it, you also see this gratuity charge. Now, I know that crew members still have to stock and maintain these bars, but it definitely feels weird to be charged a gratuity for a robotic arm. File this one under ways that you can gouge yourself, maybe without even realizing it. This is my AARP card. I am a card-carrying member, and no, I'm not retired, nor am I anywhere near 55 years old. But anyone can actually be a member and just cost about $12 a year. And when you're a member, you unlock some big discounts for anything from meals to hotels, and yes, even cruises. The group offers discounted gift cards to Carnival, Royal Caribbean, Celebrity, Princess, and Holland America for 8 to 10% off the face value. So you can buy a $500 gift card for $450, and you can buy up to 25 of them at a time. In other words, if you're not buying these cards and then using them to purchase your cruise, you're paying way more than you should. On a $3,000 cruise, for example, you're essentially leaving $300 on the table. I put a link in the description to an article that I wrote on Cruzely if you want more details on how to sign up and how to use this discount. Thank you for watching, and before you go, I want to know what you think. Is there a big gouge on cruise ships that you just have to tell other people about? Put it in the comments below. As well, remember, Cruzely is approaching 100,000 subscribers, so if you enjoyed this video and you learned something, I hope that you'll join up. As well, you can always get more advice and tips on everything cruising over at Cruzely.com. And until next time, happy sailing.